Her kitchen was too quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking wall clock that seemed louder than usual. I leaned against the counter, hands shoved in my pockets, trying to look like I wasn't holding my breath every time she moved. She was rinsing a wine glass she hadn't finished, the water running longer than necessary, her shoulders tense under the soft cotton of her blouse. 40-something. Married once. Alone now. I knew the bullet points of her life, but the spaces between them were where I got lost, where her eyes lingered too long, where her silences said things she wouldn't let herself say. "You shouldn't come here so often," she said finally, not looking at me. Her voice was low, careful, as if even the walls might carry secrets. I forced a grin. "You say that every time." She glanced at me then, just a flicker of eye contact that made my throat tighten. There was something there, something she wanted to bury. I caught it anyway. The thing is, I never knew what to do with myself around her. My words came out too quick, too eager, while hers were measured, rationed like she was afraid of giving me too much. It left me filling the gaps, chasing scraps of closeness. "You're young," she said, setting the glass upside down on the drying rack. Her hands lingered on the rim as if it could anchor her. "You'll wake up one morning and regret wasting your time on me." I wanted to laugh, to tell her she had it backward. Instead, I stepped closer until the scent of her shampoo, the kind you'd miss if you weren't paying attention, was all I could smell. "Maybe I don't care about regret," I said. "Maybe I care about this." Her lips pressed together, a line she couldn't cross. She didn't move, but I felt the stiffness in her shoulders, the way her fingers tightened slightly against the counter. She was holding back, always holding back. "You don't know what you're saying," she whispered. But I did. I knew exactly. It wasn't about saying the right thing or sounding older, more certain. It was the way my chest ached just being in the same room with her, the way my skin buzzed when her hand brushed mine accidentally. That wasn't confusion. That was the one thing I was sure of. The clock ticked. The kitchen light hummed faintly. I could hear her breathing, shallow and uneven. Then she turned, finally meeting my eyes with a look that felt like a confession. For a second, everything else blurred. The dishes, the clock, the fact that I shouldn't have been there at all. "We can't keep doing this," she said. The words cracked at the edges, like they cost her too much to say. My mouth went dry, but I didn't look away. My hand twitched at my side, wanting to reach for hers, but not daring. "Then let's do it one last time," I said quietly. My voice came out steadier than I felt, each word trembling underneath. The air between us thickened, like the whole room was waiting for her answer. And then, before she could speak, before she could let the moment collapse, a sharp knock rattled the front door. We both froze. Her head turned toward the sound, eyes wide, lips parted as if she'd been caught. My heart kicked hard against my ribs, and in the silence that followed, I realized I didn't want to know who was standing on the other side. The knock came again, sharper this time. She flinched, wiping her palms on her blouse like she'd been caught stealing something. "Stay here," she whispered, already moving toward the hallway. I hovered by the counter, pulse hammering. Whoever was at the door didn't matter. It was the way she moved, urgent, almost guilty. That was the part that twisted in my chest. Through the narrow hallway, I caught a glimpse of her opening the door only a few inches. A delivery guy, holding a package. Her voice sounded light, too light, as she signed. By the time she shut the door, her composure was stitched back together. She leaned against the wall for a second before walking back to the kitchen. "False alarm," she said, as if nothing had happened. But I saw the flush on her cheeks. I saw the way she avoided my eyes. "You always act like we're criminals," I muttered, half a joke, half a wound. Her head snapped toward me. "Because it feels that way sometimes." The silence after that was heavier than the knock. I wanted to ask her why she let me come back if it felt wrong. Why she didn't just lock the door and end it. But instead, I said, "You don't trust me." She sighed, pulling a chair from the table and lowering herself into it like the weight of her past had suddenly pressed down again. "It's not about trust. It's about everything else." I sat across from her, close enough to catch the faint tremor in her hand as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She had been married once, 15 years, maybe more. I'd heard pieces of the story in fragments. A man who promised more than he delivered, the quiet unraveling that left her cautious, scarred. She never spoke of him directly, but her pauses were loud enough. And me? I was the wrong age, the wrong timing, maybe even the wrong person. 23, still figuring out what I wanted, but somehow certain about her. Worse yet, I wasn't just some stranger. I'd been close to her son in high school. That was the thread that made everything dangerous, tangled in shame neither of us named out loud. She rubbed her temples. You're supposed to be out with friends, meeting people your age. Not. Her voice cracked before she finished. Not what? I pressed, softer this time. Her eyes finally lifted to mine. Not sitting here, looking at me like I'm. She stopped again, shaking her head. Like you're the only one I want. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The clock ticked. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. For once, I didn't rush to fill the gap. I let it stretch until it felt unbearable. Then, slowly, I reached across the table and let my hand brush against hers. Just barely, fingers grazing skin. She didn't pull away. Her eyes flickered down at our hands, then back to me. And in that fragile moment, her silence said more than anything she could have spoken. Her hand stayed under mine a second too long. Long enough for me to feel her pulse skip. Then, she pulled back, quick as if burned. This has to stop, she whispered, but her voice didn't have edges anymore. It sounded like surrender. Before I could answer, the buzz of a phone broke the moment. It wasn't mine. Her cell, left on the counter. The screen lit up with a name I recognized, her son's. My friend. Her breath caught. She stared at the phone until it stopped buzzing, until the silence felt heavier than the ring itself. You should go, she said. I didn't move. Is he coming here? No. He just calls. She swallowed hard, like she was trying to convince herself. But if he knew, she didn't finish. Didn't have to. I already pictured his face if he found out. My throat tightened. I stood, pacing toward the window. The street outside was quiet, washed in the pale glow of a street lamp. Normal. Safe. But inside, everything felt volatile, like one wrong move would crack the walls open. You think I haven't thought about it? I said, turning back to her. Every time I walk through that door, I wonder if this is the time he shows up. If I'll have to look him in the eye. Stop, she snapped, sharper than before. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Don't say it. Her sudden intensity startled me, but then I saw the sheen in her eyes. Not anger. Fear. For a beat, neither of us moved. The clock ticked again, merciless. I can't keep pretending I don't, my voice faltered. The words hung between us, raw, unfinished. She rose from the chair slowly, like every muscle in her body resisted. But she came closer, step by step, until she was only a breath away. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, the kind that lingered on clothes for hours. Her gaze held mine, conflicted, searching for a reason to turn away. I didn't give her one. The space between us dissolved. My hand lifted, hesitant, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingers lingered near her cheek, the warmth of her skin pulling me closer. Her lips parted, just slightly. And then, knuckles rapped against the window. Both of us jerked back. My stomach dropped. A voice called from outside, muffled but familiar. My roommate. Hey man, you in there? Her eyes went wide. Panic flickered across her face. I backed away, nearly knocking into the chair. He can't see me here. She pressed a hand to her chest, breath ragged, whispering, go, please. I hesitated, torn between leaving and the magnetic pull keeping me rooted. My hand still tingled where it had brushed her skin. The knock came again, more insistent. She looked at me, finally, directly, and in that look was everything she couldn't say. Regret. Longing. A silent plea I couldn't decode fast enough. I slipped toward the back door, heart slamming, knowing the moment wasn't over. Just delayed. I waited until the sound of my roommate's footsteps faded down the sidewalk before slipping back inside. She was still standing in the kitchen, her hands braced against the counter like she'd been holding herself up. You shouldn't have come back, she said, not turning. Then why didn't you lock the door? Her shoulders tensed. The question landed like a stone. She stayed quiet, and the silence between us felt dangerous, electric. I moved closer. You can't keep pushing me away and then letting me in again. I don't know which version of you is real. Finally, she turned, and the look on her face stopped me cold. Fear, yes, but under it, something sharper. Hunger she didn't want to name. You're just a boy, she said. You think this is romance. You don't see the mess it would leave behind. Don't call me a boy. My voice cracked louder than I meant, echoing in the small room. You think I don't know what I'm risking? I'm not blind. She flinched, and for a second I hated myself for raising my voice. But the words had already ripped out, and now I couldn't stop. Every time your son calls, I wonder if he knows. Every time I walk past him, I feel like I'm betraying him. Do you think I want to feel like that? Her lips parted, trembling. Then why? Because it's you. The confession burst out, ragged, raw. My hands curled into fists. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting. I broke off, breathless. My chest rose and felt like I'd just run a mile. Her eyes glistened. She shook her head slowly, whispering, "You don't know what you're saying." I do. I took another step, close enough to see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, the trace of lipstick fading on her mouth. I've never been more sure of anything. She pressed a hand against my chest, not pushing me away, just resting there like she couldn't decide which direction to move. I felt the warmth of her palm through my shirt, and my heart pounded against it like it wanted to break free. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "Fair has nothing to do with it." My voice dropped, softer now, pleading. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk out that door." Her hand trembled against me. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her throat worked, but no words came. The clock ticked again. The fridge hummed. The air was thick with everything she couldn't say. And then, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, she whispered, "I can't." My breath caught. Her eyes flickered down to my lips, then back up, just once, but enough to unravel me. I leaned in, barely an inch closer, waiting for her to stop me. She didn't. And just as the space between us was about to collapse, the front door handle rattled. The door handle rattled again, harder this time, followed by a voice that made my stomach drop. "Mom? You home?" Her son. I froze. She went pale. Her hand shot to my arm, nails digging in. "Back door. Now," she hissed. But my legs wouldn't move. Not yet. The sound of his keys clattering against the lock jolted me. He was coming in. I darted down the hallway, slipping into the spare room just as the front door swung open. My chest heaved. Every nerve in my body screamed to bolt, but I pressed myself against the wall, ears straining. "Mom." His footsteps crossed the living room. Casual, unsuspecting. The sound of his shoes on the hardwood made my throat tighten. "In here," she called, her voice steady in a way that stunned me. Like she'd been training her whole life for this lie. I pictured her face. Calm, practiced. Nothing like the woman whose hand had just trembled against my chest. The fridge door opened, closed. The sound of a can being cracked. "Thought you'd be asleep," he said. "I couldn't," she replied. Her son laughed lightly. "You never sleep." The normalcy of it almost broke me. I wanted to burst out, confess everything, just to end the unbearable tension. But then, his voice shifted, quieter. "I saw something earlier." I stiffened. "What do you mean?" she asked, too quickly. "Your car was out front when I drove by?" And a pause. "I thought I saw someone leaving the house last week." "Late." Her silence was thunderous. My stomach nodded. "You're imagining things," she said finally. But her tone wasn't convincing. Even I could hear the crack. Another pause. He sighed. "Mom, just tell me you're not seeing someone." Not him. The words hit like a blade. My pulse roared in my ears. He knew. Maybe not for sure, but enough to suspect. Enough to put the noose around my neck. Her voice faltered. "Why would you think that?" "Because I know him." His voice hardened. "And if you're with him, it's messed up. He's my friend." I pressed a fist to my mouth to keep from making a sound. Her answer came soft, almost broken. "It's not like that." I wanted to believe she meant it. But the way her voice shook, it sounded like a lie she didn't even believe herself. He didn't push further, just muttered something about being tired, heading upstairs. His footsteps faded, a door clicked shut. I stayed frozen in that spare room, every muscle burning, until the house was quiet again. Then, finally, she appeared in the doorway, her face pale, her hands trembling. "He knows," I whispered. Her eyes met mine. There was no denial, no defense left. Just the raw truth of what we'd set in motion. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if we could survive it. We stood in the dark hallway, neither of us moving. Her son's footsteps had long since faded upstairs, but the silence he left behind pressed heavier than any knock at the door. "He knows," I whispered again, though the words felt useless. Her hands gripped the doorframe like she needed it to stay upright. "No, he suspects. That's different." I stepped closer, my voice low but urgent. "It won't stay different for long." She finally looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw it. The fracture between what she wanted and what she thought she should want. Between me and the world outside these walls. This isn't just about us anymore, she said. Her voice shook, but she held it steady enough to cut through me. If he finds out, he already has. I interrupted, harsher than I meant. I raked a hand through my hair, pacing. You think I can sit across from him, pretend everything's fine, when he's already looking at me like I've stolen something? Her silence was answer enough. I stopped pacing, turned to her. My chest ached. Then tell me what you want. Not what's safe. Not what looks right. Just you. Do you want me? Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. I saw her throat work, saw the tears she blinked back. Because I can't. My voice cracked, raw. I can't keep living in this half space. Sneaking around. Pretending I'm just the kid who used to crash on your couch after late-night movies with your son. Her breath hitched at that. The memory cut through the tension like a knife. Those nights when I was just another face at the table, when she was just Mrs. Harper, smiling politely while refilling the popcorn bowl. Back then, I never thought about the way her laugh lingered after the movie ended. Or maybe I did, and I buried it. Her hand lifted now, slowly, hesitantly, until it rested against my cheek. Warm. Real. I don't know if this is right, she whispered. But I can't let you go. Something in me broke and healed at the same time. I leaned into her touch, my breath shaky. Then don't, I said. For a heartbeat. The world was only us. The faint hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, her hand trembling against my skin. The choice hung in the air, fragile but undeniable. She closed the distance first. Not a kiss, not yet. Just her forehead resting against mine, her breath mingling with mine. A quiet surrender. And in that fragile closeness, we both knew there was no undoing it. Whether it destroyed us or not, we'd already chosen. A floorboard creaked upstairs. We both froze, caught between fear and desire. She pulled back slightly, her voice barely audible. Tomorrow, everything might change. I nodded, throat tight. Then let tonight be ours. Morning came too fast. The pale light slipped through her curtains, falling across the kitchen table where neither of us had really slept. She sat with her hands wrapped around a cold mug of coffee, staring into it like it might tell her the future. I stood at the counter, arms crossed, not trusting myself to move closer. Last night still buzzed in my chest, the feel of her forehead resting against mine, her words breaking open everything I thought I knew. But now, with daylight, it felt fragile, like one wrong word could shatter it. Her voice was quiet when it came. He'll ask me again. About you. I swallowed. And what will you say? She finally looked at me, tired but steady. The truth. My stomach tightened. I wanted to be brave, to say I could handle it. But all I could think about was her son's voice. Sharp, accusing, calling me his friend while suspecting the worst. I don't want to hurt him, I admitted. Neither do I, she said softly. Then, after a beat. But maybe hiding it hurts more. The words hung heavy. She was right, and I hated it. I moved closer, pulling out the chair beside her. She didn't resist when I reached for her hand. Her fingers were cool, but they curled around mine slowly, deliberately. When this started, I said, my voice low, I thought it was just me chasing something I couldn't have. I didn't think you'd ever. I trailed off, unable to finish. Her lips curved, faint, weary. I didn't think I would, either. We sat like that, hand in hand, silence folding over us. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was real. A sound from upstairs broke the stillness. Her son moving around, opening drawers, getting ready for the day. The reminder was sharp, a weight settling back on both of us. She squeezed my hand before letting go. We'll tell him tonight. The finality in her tone hit me harder than any confession. My chest tightened, but for the first time, I felt something else with it. Relief. No more hiding. No more pretending. Okay, I whispered. Her eyes softened. Whatever happens, I need you to know. I don't regret this. I leaned forward, pressing my forehead to hers again, the same way she had last night. Not a kiss, just closeness. Just the kind of touch that said what words couldn't. Neither do I. The floorboards creaked again upstairs. The spell broke, but not the bond. We pulled apart, both breathing a little easier, both knowing the hardest part hadn't even started yet. Still, as I looked at her, her tired eyes, the faint curve of a smile that almost reached them, I knew one thing. We weren't done. Not yet. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, Red Heart. Did you enjoy the story? Sparkles, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?